If you watch my live YouTube show every week, it's on Fridays from noon till 1 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll know that last week we went through the United Nations Global Compact for Migration point by point. Obviously, we didn't get through the entire document. It's 34 pages long, more than 16,000 words. It's a small book. But we went through what I thought were 10 troubling passages in it. Like this one that simply says governments have to facilitate migrants to bring their entire families along with them, regardless of their skill level. It's pretty incredible. Even Canadian citizens don't have that right. Or this one, where governments have to set up specialized, migrant-focused health care that is culturally appropriate, they say, at both the national and local level. Oh, just that. How countries have to set up special human rights institutions to investigate and litigate any complaints made by migrants. I did a word search, by the way, and the word rights appears 112 times in this document. The word democracy doesn't appear in it once. I showed how this document goes far beyond just immigration policy into propaganda. It calls for pro-immigration content to be put into school curriculums. And one of the most worrying passages is this long one, where the governments agree to re-educate journalists on the positives of migration. Seriously, journalists will now have to go through government training on this issue, and any journalist that doesn't is to be punished. The UN Compact calls on governments to cut off any such media outlets, cut them off from resources, and punish them. I think I'll probably do another video on the subject, but if you have a full hour, you can find my YouTube chat about this from last week. My point is, I actually read the thing and went through it line by line, including the full title of the document itself, which says quite a lot in just 2 sentences. Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration, Intergovernmentally Negotiated and Agreed Outcome, 13 July 2018. It says it all. It's about normalizing and regularizing mass migration, legalizing it, putting in processes to turn the chaos of the past 5 years into an official thing, set up institutions to clear the way for migrants. Like I say, 112 mentions of the new human right to migrate. But that last part in the title there, this is already negotiated and agreed to, happened back in July, apparently. Did you know we were negotiating and agreeing to this back in July? I'll admit I didn't really even know about this until a couple months ago. Do you think most MPs even knew about it? Do you think most of them even know about it now? And here's a tough one, or an easy one. Do you think Justin Trudeau has actually read through the 34-page document that he has agreed to? I mean, really, do you think he's read it? I sure don't. He leaves the heavy thinking about immigration to this guy, George Soros, seen here at one of their meetings in New York City. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. That photo was actually tweeted by Justin Trudeau himself. Here's an official press release from the Government of Canada a few years back, in which Trudeau agreed to outsource Canada's immigration policy to George Soros' foundation in New York, called the Open Society Foundation. It has 3 main points, this agreement. The first 2 are about refugee policy, but look at the third one just for a second. Trudeau agreed with Soros that Canada would, and I quote, provide a vehicle that mobilizes citizens in direct support of refugees and encourages a broader political debate that is supportive of refugee protection. So again, it's not just about immigration. It's about immigration propaganda. George Soros will instruct Justin Trudeau on how to encourage a broader political debate that is supportive of refugee protection. Oh, so it's not really a debate then. It's just one side of a debate. It's not a debate anymore. You can't call it broader if you're actually narrowing it, can you? Well, you can do what you want if you're George Soros. So although George Soros had an enormous setback in 2016 when his chosen candidate, Hillary Clinton, lost, he has simply just colonized Canada as his new base of operations. He literally had Trudeau sign a contract giving him immigration policy powers. And I haven't seen a single news story about that in the mainstream media, have you? Oh, and here's Ahmed Hassan, the immigration refugee minister, posing with Alex Soros, George Soros' playboy son, who is a die-hard globalist leftist just like his dad. Unlike Trudeau, I do believe that Hassan has read the document and he will impose it on Canadians with a vengeance. By the way, we at The Rebel filed an access to information request asking for any background documents showing the contracts and agreements and communications that the government and Soros had about their contract. Like I say, we know they did a deal. That's not a theory, it's a government press release. I showed it to you. But they said there were no documents. They just said, yeah, there's no records at all. So I wrote to them again more clearly, and they wrote back again, yeah, sorry, sir, there's just nothing, not even a single record, not a single email, not a single memo, not a single record at all. They're lying, of course. Imagine if Stephen Harper had signed a contract and put out a press release boasting that he had given Exxon the power to write Canada's oil sands policy, and the media simply ignored that scandal, and then one media outlet asked for records about the deal and was told, sorry, there's just no emails, sorry, just trust us. So that's where we are. And next week, the official United Nations conference on this compact for migration kicks off in Marrakesh, Morocco. Like I say, it's a done deal. That's what the document says right on its cover. It's already agreed to. This conference will really just be a big party and a big photo op. Now, I don't know what Canadian media will actually be going there, but we're going. We're sending David Menzies, our experienced reporter, who was just down in Mexico for the better part of a week, embedded with a migrant caravan there that was making its way up to the U.S. border. So he's well briefed on this file. He's a fair journalist, as in he'll actually listen to both sides of the story, unlike the bulk of the mainstream media, who treat any criticism of mass migration as a form of bigotry or something. It's not bigotry, of course. In fact, 80% of Canadians, according to this recent poll by Angus Reid, want Canadian immigration levels to either stay the same, 31% say that, or be reduced. 49% say that. So 80% want it the same or lower. Only 6%, as you can see, want immigration increase. Sorry, you cannot say that 80% of Canadians are bigoted because they don't want more immigration. Canadians just think immigration is out of control. And there are a lot of bad actors like George Soros who want it out of control and who delight in the chaos they're causing for the West. Canadians are actually very generous people, but we realize when we're being taken advantage of by people who aren't real refugees, by people who are breaking our laws. The fact that Justin Trudeau has dispatched our RCMP to literally be concierges and bellboys helping illegal immigrants carry their luggage across the border between New York and Quebec shows Canadians that he can't be trusted on this file. He's actually on the side of the cheaters and the fakers. We also know that Trudeau isn't vetting migrants. 13-year-old Marissa Shen of Vancouver was raped and murdered, and police have arrested and charged one of Trudeau's Syrian migrants, charged him with the crime. He wasn't even supposed to be allowed into Canada. Trudeau said he wasn't going to accept single military-aged men from Syria. He lied. No one trusts Trudeau on immigration. And the fact that every question about immigration is met with a charge of racism is really gross, and I think it's starting to backfire. I really think that's a key reason why Quebec threw out the provincial Liberal Party this year and elected a new party that didn't even exist 10 years ago. I think a key reason is because they promised to reduce immigration to Quebec by 20%. Not increase it, reduce it. And they're also banning ostentatious displays of Islam in the public sector, like the niqab and the burqa. There was this awful moment on the campaign in Quebec, captured on a cell phone, when an old school Quebecois grandma asked Justin Trudeau about the massive cost of illegal immigration. Remember, they're walking into Quebec. And Trudeau told her that she was a bigot and she had no place in Quebec. You don't belong to Quebec. You have no place in Quebec. Yeah, so here we are. Next week, there's a big conference to consummate a deal that's already been agreed to, the UN. And anyone in Canada who disagrees is called a bigot, and Trudeau will probably say we don't have a place here in Canada. Now, until a few days ago, no one was talking about this. The Conservative MP, Michelle Rempel, raised it in question period, and Justin Trudeau had this reply.
Mr. Speaker, the world is seeing unprecedented levels of men, women, and children displaced by war and by persecution. Our government is proud to have taken a leadership role on the global compact. This is the first time the international community has worked together to develop a comprehensive set of principles to better manage this phenomenon. It is disappointing to see the Conservatives engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories while we work with the international community to protect our robust immigration system.
Now, they didn't answer the question, of course, and it was a bit weird to hear him refer to us at the rebel, just out of the blue. And you'll notice he was reading that word for word from a script. It's a little odd. And then Ahmed Hassan, the immigration minister himself, did the exact same thing, using the exact same words at the end. Take a look.
Our government is proud to have taken a leadership position on the global compact. This is the first time that the international community has worked together to develop a comprehensive set of principles to better manage this phenomenon. It is disappointing to see the Conservatives and the member opposite engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories while we work with the international community to protect our robust immigration system.
That was the exact same wording. In fact, we did a little mashup of those two guys. Did you see this?
It is disappointing to see the Conservatives and the member opposite engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
It is disappointing to see the Conservatives engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
It is disappointing
to see the Conservatives
engage in peddling
rebel media
conspiracy theories. It is disappointing to see the Conservatives engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
It is disappointing to see the Conservatives engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
Yeah, what do you think of that? I think that Gerald Butts, Trudeau's manager, wrote that script for both of them. Butts is obsessed by the rebel. Trudeau said that same thing a third time, but he went off script slightly. Did you see this one?
Prime Minister.
It's interesting, Mr. Speaker, in a question about sensitizing journalists, he's quoting rebel media talking points. Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue to stand up for immigration, knowing that defending diversity is a source of strength and welcoming people through a rigorous immigration system from around the world is what has made Canada strong and indeed something the world needs more of, not less of, like they want to bring in.
And then that pervy Liberal MP from Calgary, Kent Hare, the one who was fired from cabinet over sexual misconduct, but not fired from the Liberal caucus, weirdly. And he went on a rant about the rebel also. It's a really weird thing. I mean, are we small and marginal as our enemies say we are, or are we powerful and dangerous as those same enemies say we are? But to answer the charge directly, what conspiracy theory have we put forward? Seriously, go and watch my hour-long treatment of the UN document last week on YouTube. Look at what I've said here today. Where's the conspiracy theory? I've just read from the document itself. I know Trudeau hasn't read it. It's 34 whole pages long, and there's no pictures. I pointed to a government contract with George Soros by showing you the Canadian government press release of it. Now, they won't release the contract itself. They say, oh, there's no correspondence, no records whatsoever. So I think it could feed a paranoid feeling that there's some conspiracy there. But I've documented everything I've said today, haven't I? This whole thing only makes sense, though. When you remember that part of this UN Migrant Pact, remember paragraph 33, I showed it to you? The part for governments to demonize any media critics of mass migration. That was, I quoted to that earlier. So that's what they're doing. And they're going to reward and re-educate good journalists who are trustworthy and who are on message with the Liberals. And that is exactly what they're doing. They are rewarding journalists that Trudeau can trust. Remember his $595 million in bailout money for the election year. And the journalists, well, look, they didn't need a lot of prompting to begin with. You know, the Globe and Mail, the National Post, they've adopted this strategy over the past year or so of just ignoring us here at the Rebel most of the time. We break news all the time here at the Rebel, especially using access to information scoops. So these other journalists, they don't follow up on our great stories, even when it's huge news, because they don't want to give credit to us or even mention our existence. It's really weird. It's sort of a high school Mean Girls thing. Sometimes media party journalists just steal our stuff and rewrite it, pretending it was theirs. Can I show you something? Here's a story, and you'll notice on October 17th, Sheila broke some news about Catherine McKenna. She made some tweet that praised Bashar Assad of Syria for fighting global warming. It was a funny, nutty story about McKenna and how she blamed a junior staffer for her own weird decisions. But the important thing there is that story came out on October 17th. And you'll notice, if you look at the story, Sheila published the entire access to information document online for anyone to see. We always do that. But then here, look at this. October 25th, 8 days later, the CBC just rewrote Sheila's scoop. CBC News has obtained documents under the Access to Information Act showing the minister's office gave a final thumbs up to the tweet 51 minutes before it popped up on the blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, you liars. Sheila broke that story 8 days ago and published the memo. You didn't break that news. My point is the other media ignore the rebel, hoping we'll go away. We haven't gone away. We often have more viewers than them, and they hate that. But my point here is that the Globe and the Post generally ignore us, but not now. Look at this. Today, front page of the National Post. Holy cow. John Iveson, who's the liberal embed at the National Post, he refers to my video about this migration pact right on the front page there. They never do that. And the Globe and Mail's Campbell Clark, Trudeau's man at the Globe, he does the same thing. Same line, same story, same thing, same day. Now, I don't want to engage in a conspiracy theory here, but it is hilarious and pitiful to me that Justin Trudeau offered to pay the Globe and Mail and the National Post $595 million, but only if he can trust them. Trudeau then replies to any legitimate questions about this migration compact as a rebel media conspiracy theory, and then, as if on command, by magic, the Globe and Mail and the National Post say the same thing as the Liberals do on the same day after not talking about us for years. That's embarrassing, guys. I mean, get a room. What's so funny about all this is that neither the Post nor the Globe could actually find anything we said that was inaccurate. If you actually read John Iveson or Campbell Clark, they might disagree with our contention. I mean, the Post, John Iveson disagreed with my contention that this pact is dangerous. That was the one word they took issue with. Well, that's my opinion. It's probably an opinion shared by Marissa Shen's grieving family. But it's an opinion. It's not a conspiracy theory or factual error. I say it's dangerous. It's not a conspiracy theory. The Globe and Mail disagrees with my contention that this pact will regularize illegal immigration. Well, that's exactly what it does in 34 pages of detail. The word regular is even the title of that. But seriously, if that's the best they've got, they don't got a lot. Now, this is a big deal. Trudeau has long said he doesn't believe Canada has a national identity. He tells foreign papers this all the time. He said Canada is a post-national state. That's what he says. No core identity. He means it. He doesn't believe in borders, even though his official residence has a tall fence and armed security, and he jets to private islands with his family for vacations. He'll open the borders for the rest of us, and Ahmed Hassan will be there to help them. Well, we're gonna keep criticizing this by actually citing the facts and actually reading the document, two things that Justin Trudeau hasn't done. And we're going to send our reporter David Menzies, along with a cameraman, to Marrakesh, Morocco next week to this UN conference. The UN is giving us trouble with accreditation. Obviously, Trudeau and Hassan have intimated, don't let these guys in. Maybe they've sent it in another memo they won't disclose. Again, not a conspiracy theory. The Canadian government has told the UN not to let us into previous conferences. Take a look here. The UN specifically declined allowing us into the global warming conference because they said that the Canadian government delegation blackballed us. Catherine McKenna said, don't let them in. But hey, don't worry about it. John Iveson and Campbell Clark will still be allowed to go if they want, just as long as they continue to say exactly what Justin Trudeau and Gerald Butts and Ahmed Hassan want them to say. Exactly, word for word, on the same day. And they'll get a $595 million tip for services rendered. Not us. We're not going to take that Trudeau money. So if you want to help us send David to the UN, please help us cover his flight and the cost of our cameraman's flight. Please go to rebelun.com. You can see more about our project and chip in there. Look, unlike the Globe and Mail and the National Post and Justin Trudeau, we actually read the deal. And we're with the 80% of Canadians who are sick of Trudeau's immigration policies. Go to rebelun.com to help. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show, weekdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Every day I do a monologue, interview a guest, and read my fan mail and my hate mail. To subscribe, go to therebel.media/shows.